Hi, welcome to Hospitality Live with Rupesh. Each week, we feature an industry leader that will share the latest trends and the best strategies to help you grow. Now, welcome your host, Rupesh Patel.
Hey guys, welcome. Welcome to the episode. Guys, ping in some people we're on Clubhouse, we're live on LinkedIn, and we are live on YouTube. Guys, welcome to the show. This is episode number 83. And yes, I've had too much coffee this morning as I am live from the Rosewood, in downtown Santa Fe, New Mexico. This hotel is called the Inn of the Anasazi. Anasazi is the people of this area, which I understood from a book that's here in this library. This hotel is beautiful. It's a boutique hotel. I think it's 58 or 59 rooms. Guys, please bring in some people. Please share. And guys, comment. Let me know where you're watching from. And by the way, if my internet goes down, I'm sorry, because I'm not used to this setup right here, and I'm not sure if my connection is strong. So, guys, comment. Sarah says yes, I am live. Guys, comment. Let me know where you're watching from and if this is live, because I don't know. All right, so this is episode number 83. We're talking about the future trends of hotel and travel with the CEO, Rafat Ali of Skift. I'm super excited because I've been reading and following him for years now. And this morning before the episode, he was like, guess what? This is my 10th anniversary of starting this company. They've changed names, of course, but today is actually the day he registered the name of or started this company, which is amazing. Guys, comment, let me know where you're watching from. All right, so we have people from Massachusetts, India, Los Angeles, Michigan. Welcome, Singapore, New York City, love it. Georgia. All right, we got UK in the house, Ontario, London, Texas. Good morning. London, UK, Fredericksburg. Guys, comment, let me know where you're watching from. Boston, Massachusetts in the house. All right. Welcome, Orlando. Jennifer's always on. I love it. All right. So every week we bring in on a leader, and this week's episode is brought to you by Impulsify. Generate more revenue. Guys, somebody put this in the comments. Again, this week I forgot to post, but somebody put in the comments, it's rupesh.co/Impulsify. So you can actually click on that link. This episode is brought to you by Impulsify. Impulsify is the leader. If you want your gift shop or your grab and go, and if you don't have data, or if you have a computer behind it or some kind of system behind it to understand the analytics behind actually if you're making good money or if you're leaving money on the table, Impulsify can help you. Impulsify helps hotels with a kiosk, a system to really analyze your grab and go. Thank you so much to Impulsify for sponsoring this show. And let me see if I can bring up the the link. Let's see. Here it is. Guys, somebody put this in the comments. It is rupesh.co/Impulsify to get their 2021 best sellers guide. If you want to know what to sell in your retail shop right now, download this free guide. It's a PDF guide that you'll get right now to really understand what you should be selling and what you should not be selling. There are some this is a free guide. So guys, comment, let me know if you have received this. All right, so we have some people from Portugal. Thank you so much for posting it. All right, so we got Maryland in the house, Las Vegas in the house. I've been watching videos and friends visiting Vegas this past week, and things are picking up. I'm super excited to find out what's happening in the world, and we're gonna get more into that. All right, so my mindset every week, and guys, Sarah and Rafat said this looks like a fake background. And do you guys think this is a fake background? Does it look like a fake background? Does it? Somebody comment, let me know if it looks like a fake background, because Sarah's like, you look like you have a fake background. But no, listen, I said, I'm going to grab a pillow and throw it over there. It's not fake, it's real. We are live from the Rosewood in downtown Santa Fe, New Mexico. Guys, comment and let me know if you guys are watching. All right, so I don't know if this is going. I think my internet's going down. Can you guys still hear me? All right, I think we're good to go. All right, I think we are good to go. All right, so this week's mindset is let me pull it up. And guys, I'm not in my element. This is like something I'm not in my element this week. As I traveled through New Mexico with my family on our spring break. All right, so this week's mindset is: would you go on vacation by yourself? And I had 1,861 people vote that they would or would not. And 82% of people said they would go on vacation right there. And 18% of people said no. And some people said, listen, I'm married. I wouldn't feel comfortable going on vacation by myself or without my family. Now, I would love to learn from you. Would you go, and comment yes or no? Would you go on vacation by yourself? I think my wife's done that. I want to do this here soon. I just want to go on a trip for a few days by myself and just hang out. And I'm the beach pool kind of guy. But I would love to learn from you. If you would go just on a trip by yourself, without anybody, without any friends, just take a flight somewhere or drive somewhere. Take a week's vacation or a few days or a weekend away. Let's see. All right. So Jennifer says 100%. Jenny says no. Lisa says no. People are saying yes, no. And I'm surprised. Over 1,800 people commented, and 82% of those people said yes, they would. Which, listen, it's as travel opens up, I think a lot of people are going to be traveling on the fly, and I think that's important as we all continue growing and continue. And hold on a second. All right, and we continue. All right, so a lot of people are saying yes, they would travel, and definitely I would go going this winter, going this summer. Yes, I think travel is going to be. And going by yourself, I think it's going to be a thing too this year. All right, so now every week I bring on Sarah, and she talks about what's happening in travel.
Hi, I'm Sarah Dandashy from Ask a Concierge. Every week I'll be sharing the latest hospitality and travel news and updates in a segment we like to call Hospitality Minutes.
What's up, Sarah?
Good morning. Good morning.
I am out of my element.
I know.
Like it feels weird not being in my office, being in my little so-called studio, and recording this. I'm like waking up early. I'm almost in your time zone. It's like 7:30 in the morning, and I think it's 6:30 in California, but still, it's early, and I'm trying to stay on the East Coast time. So every day I've been waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning just to make sure when I get back to work or when I get back home, I'm not like, it's not taking me days to like get back to time. And I know you just flew back in from Florida last night. How were things over there?
I was in Florida last week. I was hosting a hospitality conference, a virtual It was virtual. I was in person. So I was hosting the hospitality conference in Delray, so just north of Fort Lauderdale. Then I ended up being just north of San Francisco in El Dorado County, working with Visit California and the El Dorado County Tourism Board, creating some content for them, and flew back last night about 8:30. And then here we are. But this is how we roll, right? So now, by the way, now you know how I feel when I'm coming in from Portugal or wherever I am on your show, and I'm at home and you're on the road.
It's weird. Like I feel weird, like yelling in this library when people are sleeping next door and above me. This is a small hotel. I think it's like 58 or 59 rooms, and it's beautiful. Have you been to
No, I haven't. But I've been watching your stories. I have to say, you've done very well. I approve of the pans and like the tours. I'm into it.
I learned all of this from you, Sarah. Sarah, I've been stalking you as you went through El Dorado. You and your friend.
Yeah.
And I stalk you. And I learned these techniques of panning and using like the wide angle and all that stuff just from learning from you guys. If you're not following Sarah on Instagram, you got to follow her. She has like almost 30,000 followers on Instagram, and she like does the travel thing seriously. Let me see if I could pull up your
Hospitality Minute. I see it here. Cool. Well, I'll dive in because I think you're still there in the background. You sounded quiet. But hopefully there you are. Welcome back to the party. Okay, cool. So I'll go ahead and dive into today's Hospitality Minute super quick because you definitely want to get to Rafat Ali. He's amazing and he's talking in just a bit. But okay, so quick topic, not necessarily a surprise, but so that we can understand at least the gravity or at least the extreme nature as far as last year. So they've kind of come to their numbers for last year, and the travel and tourism sector basically suffered about $4.5 trillion in loss in 2020. Now that is globally. This is a massive loss. Obviously, so many of us know the extent of it. Certainly, we've experienced it, but to understand it on the global scale, I think was really interesting. So the industry's contribution to the GDP plunged 49.1%. So dropping to 4.7 trillion in 2020, and from nearly 9.2 trillion in 2019. So 2019, it was 9.2 trillion. In 2020, it was 4.7 trillion. Now, what's interesting too is reports are showing that international travel spending fell about 69.4% in 2020, while domestic travel spending declined about 45%. That just goes to show you what we've all been talking about. Obviously, domestic travel has been the way that people have been getting out there. Certainly, still numbers are down, but good to kind of see those for a bit of perspective. But now we'll have more positive news because I know we want to definitely focus on the positive. So the Mexican Caribbean destinations are reporting that hotel occupancies are increasing. For those of you that know or have seen, just a couple weeks ago, I actually was in the Mexican Caribbean region, and I can definitely say that people were there, and a lot more people have been coming. So the Mexican Caribbean region, we're talking about like Cancun, Riviera Maya, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, very popular for spring break and the Easter holiday travel period, which we are right in the middle of. Some interesting numbers is that they actually found that bookings through Easter have climbed up to about 50%, with expectations that 20,000 rooms would be occupied in about 100 of the hotel developments in and around the area. Now, what was also interesting is who is coming there. So they found that it was about 50% domestic, so within Mexico, and about 50% international, with the majority of the arrivals coming from outside Mexico from the US. Not too much of a surprise. Mexico has done an excellent job as far as staying open and being a great international option for U.S. travelers. So as we are seeing this new trend, the vaccination or the vaccinations that are coming up, we'll talk about that later, but people that are getting vaccinated that are planning their vacation. So that seems to be a very prime location for them. And then quick thing to just round up really quickly so we can continue on with the show. Just 5 ways that summer travel is poised to pop this year. I know we've covered spring travel trends going into summer. Still very much what we've been discussing for quite some time, but it's proving to be the case. Leisure travel is still leading the way. Airline travel is about 50%, is still off by about 53% from 2019 levels. But that's still gone up quite a bit compared to what we have been over the past year. And I think we're even on something, the TSA has even reported that I think since March 11th, we have been on this continual growth as far as how many people are traveling and passing through TSA, over 1 million a day since then. Also, airfares will go up. We've talked about this over time, but this is now we're really seeing it. This sort of supply and demand thing, not issue, but we're seeing the supply and demand sort of up and down as far as airfare prices. So way back when we were like, book travel for the future, you're going to get the best deals then now we're really seeing a lot of that. And it's really coming to a head. This summer, okay, one of the things that I talked about, the best thing for consumers to come out of the pandemic in regards to travel was that most people had flexible cancellation policies. So flexibility will go back to normal. So we might see people being less flexible when it comes to cancellation policies from airlines to hotels. Expect masks to stay. That will definitely, even though people are getting vaccinated, masks are still here to stay, certainly through this summer. And then easier access to outdoors. So we are seeing a lot of airlines really focus on getting people to these outdoor destinations, as outdoor will still be a prime option for travelers for this summer. So that is it for today's Hospitality Minute. A little quick snapshot. And yeah, there you go. That was
Thank you, Sarah. It's always a pleasure having you. Where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere online at Ask a Concierge or my website, askaconcierge.tv. So.
And Sarah has a book coming out. Sarah,
can you
hint the book?
Yes, I can hint the book. Hospitality from Within, hospitality book. Just kind of sharing all of the lessons I've learned over my almost 20 years in hotels. Also sharing stories from fellow hotel concierge from around the world and some key quotes from industry professionals like yourself and others that really are kind of motivational. So it's a great book. More on that soon.
Absolutely. And Sarah, can you tell us about April 10th? What's happening April 10th?
Oh, April 10th. I was like, what is happening? No, April 10th, we have got our social media boot camp. So if you know, obviously Rupesh and I have done several social media boot camps. They've always sold out. We were doing them in the middle of the week, but we tried to do something different for those that work regular jobs in the middle of the week, and you might not be able to take off the time. We are doing a one-day session, our social media boot camp on April 10th. It's a Saturday. Please join us. We'll share more details later. We will be definitely talking about it because that is around the corner.
That is around the corner. I mean, April is tomorrow.
Yeah, it's here.
And I'm going to do an April Fool's trick on somebody. I'm not going to tell you who it is. It might be you, Sarah.
Your wife.
No, if I do it to my wife, she will leave me. Everyone knows that.
Okay. This is fair. Fine. Do it on me. It's fine. Okay.
Well, Sarah, it's always a pleasure having you. And let's chat.
Yeah.
Let's chat a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll talk later. Enjoy the conversation. I'll be tuning in on Clubhouse and in the comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Guys, always follow Sarah. She has a huge following on every single channel, including Instagram, with almost 130,000 verified with her verified account. I love Sarah. She's always awesome. And Sarah, I have been stalking you on Instagram.
I've been a lot of places in the past week. So to be fair, it's there's at least been something more interesting to show than my living room. Which,
Sarah, it's always a pleasure. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, talk again.
All right, see ya. Sarah's awesome. All right, so super excited. All right, so today's episode is number 83, the future trends of hotel and travel. And we have the CEO of Skift, Mr. Rafat Ali. Let's bring him on. Hey, Rafat, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rupesh. I'm going to have a hard time matching your energy. I just will.
It's coffee and probably more coffee. Guys, comment and let me know if you have a question. We would love to answer your question. We're talking about the future of hotels, the trends that are happening. And let's talk about Skift real quick and your background. And we talked about this. This is your 10-year, today is your 10th year anniversary?
Yes, as of registering the company. So technically, I guess I started working on Skift as of today, March 31st, 2011. And it was registered as TRVLIQ. That, I don't know why I had that name. And then that changed name before we launched, which was July 30th, 2012 to Skift. And so, yeah, it's 10 years as a journey. As a company anniversary, that's going to be next year. But my personal sort of starting the company is today.
That is awesome. I love to hear stories of beginnings. And like you just thought, like people think of these ideas and like, you know what, I'm just going to dive in deep and just try it and see if it works. And is that what you did as you started?
Yeah, well, so go back to your poll, which you just had about people traveling solo. I would love to travel solo. I've been married now 9 years, the same as my company as well, and have not traveled solo since I got married. But before, when I sold, so this is my second company I built and sold, a previous media company, left in 2010 and then traveled from 2010 to 2012. I was single then, traveled alone on my own for 2 years for different parts of the world. Iceland was where I started. The quick backstory is that I landed in Iceland a week after the final flames of the volcano finished. And so I was really one of the first visitors into the country after the previous big volcano happened. Obviously, there's a volcano thing happening right now in Iceland. I don't know if you're following, but that's much smaller. But so I went and drove over to the whole area. There was ash there. So I traveled for 2 years on my own, which was the most fulfilling 2 years anybody could take. as like a sabbatical from work and just work life, etc. So I would love to do that. I don't think I can afford not have 2 kids and a wife and a company to run as well. But the Skift didn't really come. There wasn't a moment where I said, let's start Skift. It was an evolution of my previous experience focused on business media, covering a sector and going deep into it, becoming the most respected, preeminent source in that sector through news research conferences. That was my previous company in a different sector. And when I started looking at travel, I was traveling myself, but started looking at travel. And just saw how wide the tentacles of this industry are globally, and it needed sort of a Bloomberg of travel. And that was our, in fact, early pitch. We are starting Bloomberg of travel, news research, conferences, marketing services data in the travel industry. And lo and behold, the early vision has played out in many different ways. Obviously, the last year has been tough for us, as it's been for everybody else. But as we're sitting here today, channeling your energy, it is certainly it's beginning to look like a very hopeful time for travel. The numbers, at least in US, are all going in the right direction. Yes, there's the COVID numbers that are also unfortunately rising again, but I think it's going to be really, really hard to leash back the upward trending travel numbers at this point. Airlines, hotels. Yesterday, I was talking to the guy who owns the TWA hotel. I don't know if you visited the one.
I've seen it.
And they're running at like 80% occupancy, and they've been running through this pandemic. The amazing part is they do have a lot of airline crew that comes there, so there's certainly a base that they have. But staycations, he said, like my business has basically been staycations from the greater New York area, including me. I live like 20 minutes away from the hotel, and just in the last year, just people coming in and staying overnight has been a big source of revenue for them as well. So it's an amazing time.
Yeah, and I hear it. I just flew from Orlando to Dallas to New Mexico to Albuquerque, and the airports are crazy. Like Orlando looked like there was no pandemic going on. There's kids flying in, kids leaving, kids crying on the plane. It's like nothing ever stopped. And I think that's going to be the case as we go into summer. I would love to talk about. So we're talking about future trends in hotel and travel, and let's get into, because this is what you do. You guys define the kind of the future of travel and what's happening, and you you do a lot of research, and that's what Skift does, right? Is that what you kind of tell us exactly what Skift does? Yeah,
so daily news, if you go to skift.com, you will see the daily news that comes. There's a newsletter. If you go to skift.com/newsletters, I think that's what it is. You will get the daily free newsletter. We have I think 10 and 11 different reporters in different parts of the world covering different parts of the industry, not just hospitality, but all parts of travel. Hotels tend to be our biggest sector just by the sheer size and the amount of people the amount of players that are in the sector. We also we have a unit called Skift Research, which if you go to research.skift.com, it's a high price research service that you can subscribe to. And then we do our conferences. If you go to live.skift.com, you will see what has been virtual conferences for the last year now. We obviously do physical conferences. The Skift Global Forum, many of you may know, is our flagship conference, happens in New York City. All the big CEOs are there. Last year, obviously, was virtual. And we bought a couple of other companies, one in the event space, one in the airline space, covering those sectors. So that's what we do.
Yeah. And you guys have hosted almost every single hotel CEO that's out there. You guys have hosted them with your conferences and live events. I love seeing those insights and just hearing from them as you guys do live events. And want to know, like, last year was not a lost year for the hotel business and travel. It was a year to learn and innovate. What happened? What did you guys see?
Yeah, so I've been saying that last year was not a lost year. It was lost year in terms of revenue. Certainly, a lot of jobs were lost. Many companies closed down as well, or around the world. In fact, surprisingly, not as many companies closed down as you would have expected in general, because just the aids across the world, particularly also in the US as well, airlines, hotels, were able to tap into more aid that than you would have thought in March, April, and May. So that's the good news. From injecting excitement into what happens next, that's what I mean by saying last year was not a lost year. Reimagining of what hotels become in an age where a good portion of people may potentially be distributed, working from home or working from wherever they are. Our company, as an example, we had an office in New York City. We gave up that office. Now we're permanently distributed. I don't like to use the word remote because that, everybody is distributed. So we don't have an office. A bunch of our people, we've hired people. In fact, I did this tweet last night saying we've hired people in the last 6 months in DR, Denmark, India, different parts of the US, Netherlands. So that's the new reality. If that's a new reality, what do hotels do in this space? How is it intersecting with co-working? How is it intersecting with all the other trends that are happening in the world as well? What role does F&B have in a world going ahead? So that's in hospitality. Corporate travel, which in generally is a very generally a staid technical sector, is suddenly being reinvented as people are trying to figure out, well, how much of corporate travel will be lost? What happens with the emergence of things that you and I are doing on this video? And so that is suddenly the conversation is, how does it get reinvented as the business of meetings, which is a huge part of obviously the travel industry revenue? What does that come back as? So from a storytelling perspective for us as a company, there's never been a better time to tell stories. The last year, obviously, was a lot of resilience and how, what happens to the industry, but now it's more future looking in terms of how does the industry come back? What is the changed traveler behavior? That's also very interesting will be very interesting to see. Clearly, as you have seen in your travels, there's a huge pent-up demand. And US, unfortunately was never locked down, which meant that there was a base of travel that was happening all along the pandemic, which is now coming back to a certain margin, maybe let's say 50% of what it was prior to the pandemic. So at least that's there compared to Europe, which had a very strict lockdown, and the travel has been much, much, much lower occupancy levels. Last week, or was it two weeks ago, STR had a number that US hotel occupancy numbers are touching 60%, which is amazing to think. Like, who would have thought in June or July or August that this is where we would be? And so all the signs are very good. So that's why I say, in terms of last year was not a lost year. It's an exciting time to figure out what the next stage would be.
All right. And as you guys do your research, what are your predictions as far as maybe this summer, later in the year, next year? What is the predictions? Because people ask me all the time. They're like, hey, when's our industry coming back? Should I come back to the industry to get a job? Should I leave the industry because I'm not going to find a job? Like, what are your predictions as far as when you think things are going to come back? And we'll talk about some other topics that I'm super that people have asked me that I don't know the answer to. So I'm going to come to you to answer these. So
look, some of the trends have already played out, which is that domestic is going to be big, will continue to be big. At minimum, if there's one thing that we can take away from this pandemic as good for the travel industry, it's that we've all rediscovered domestic travel. Domestic travel in huge way is small and medium businesses' lifeline across the US, across the world. And the fact that we're rediscovering small businesses, not just in travel, but also are all around us as we live. Like, I live in Astoria, Queens. Over the last year, I've been probably the most aware of being in this 10-block radius that I live of the small shops, or the shops that are closed, the shops that are open, the shops that are going away, the restaurants that are doing okay, the restaurants that are not doing okay. So that awareness is hopefully spilling into travel. Domestic, certainly that's there. Sarah was mentioning outdoor. Outdoor has seen a resurgence, people rediscovering national parks, which is a great thing in US. elsewhere in the world as well. Short-term rentals, everybody had the thing about Airbnb. It's done. Like nobody wants to stay in other people's houses. Well, you've seen what has happened with Airbnb. Great IPO. It looks like they're doing well, but also the spillover effects in other, the whole Airbnb ecosystem is not just one company. They have a whole ecosystem as well. So that sector is doing well. One of the things that we see, particularly over this year, is from an airline and just visitor perspective, what used to be a sleepy category, VFR, which is visiting friends and relatives in the industry. That's a airline category. That's a travel industry category. Has been doing well, which is you and I going to see our families. Guess what? What my first international trip will be. When we can travel more freely would be to go see my mom in India. And that's a VFR trip that typically the industry looks down upon because they don't get as much revenues. I'm going to go stay with my mom, not at a hotel. I'm not going to be spending in the travel ecosystem, but certainly the airlines get money from it. So in general, I think low-cost airlines will continue to benefit. We've seen a couple of IPOs in the low-cost airline world, which is, again, incredible to think about. Luxury side seems to be doing well and returning. There's enough forward booking on the luxury side. People who can afford to travel and are now fully vaccinated, unfortunately, in the US, and this is true across the world. The rich are getting vaccinated a lot earlier than the other demographics, and so once they're vaccinated, they have the ability to spend money and travel. So if you talk to the high-end travel agents in the Virtuoso network or any other kind of network, they are seeing the forward bookings rise as a result of it as well. So I think I can keep on and on, but those are some of the things that we're seeing. On the tech side, interesting thing that's happened in the last year is a lot of companies, particularly large hotel companies and airline companies, have looked at their tech and had this moment of pause to retool some of their tech. Not just tech, but processes as well. There was a story we did yesterday about the Standard Hotel, which is not a giant company, it's a relatively small, but the Standard Hotels, they launched an app called Stan, which takes out the human urge. You don't have to call the front desk. You can just text with them. You don't have to text through any special app. You can just use your regular, whatever you're using to text with the concierge, such that you don't have to call and be in a wait for like 5 minutes to get something answered, etc. So some of the back-end processes are being retooled in this time, which I think will help the hotel industry as it comes back. So many of these innovations are happening.
Yeah, and are you seeing chatbots, which are a big thing last year, beginning of the pandemic, or even the year before? They were saying chatbots are going to be the only thing that's going to be running your bookings and driving the initial engagement as travelers are trying to research. Are you seeing that as a forward-moving way of communicating and booking and kind of going through the process of travel?
I don't think so. Booking hasn't played out in the sense that booking, except for potentially China through WeChat, hasn't played out as much as that people expected. But customer service, 100%. As chat and text have become the predominant mode in how people communicate with each other, this is how the world communicates. Certainly customer service. And customer service in a time like last year when that crush of things happened where you couldn't find anybody to cancel your ticket, etc. Now you would argue hopefully the next pandemic doesn't happen. But if it does happen, which I guess it's a matter of time because scientists say that there will be another pandemic, the industry is more resilient in terms of customer service and how to scale that up in a time like this. And so hopefully that has there's a lot of tech still left to be implemented in the customer service part of the hotel and travel industry in general.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I use, even staying at a few of these hotels as I'm doing my traveling. So last year I did the VFR. I went to go during the summer, visit friends and family and stayed in their homes and really didn't, stay at hotels. We drove. And now this year I feel more comfortable flying, and we're doing the outdoors thing here in New Mexico. And as we're traveling, we've been using chatbots through the apps, through the brand apps or through the hotel apps. And it's been very useful. Now I'm not waiting like 30 minutes to go do something or get an answer. I'm getting those answers right away. Through intelligence, which I love. And is that what you're seeing as far as a disruptor in hotels and travel? Is it a disruptor, or is it just a way of innovating?
I think it's a way of innovating. It doesn't disrupt the hotels themselves, but there is real concern about AI and its use in the and what it means to the labor market. Yesterday, I think it was the Delta CEO was being interviewed on some of the one TV show, and he was grilled about like what is the role of AI and what would it mean for labor, and he sort of said no. Obviously, he's going to say no. What is he going to say? No, this would replace all my employees. He's not going to say that, but there's certainly a valid concern about what does it mean for labor in the hotel industry. In general, the more friction that comes out of our stays in travel, whether it's airports or airports, it has happened in a big way. What's happened in the airports in the last, let's say, 15 years, the self check-in, the being able to go through the lines. This is not true for U.S. airports, or at least it's getting better now in the U.S. airports. But some of the international airports is obviously a lot more obvious. You go through Dubai or Singapore, there you will see the airport of the future, and all the technologies that have come in there are now coming in different parts of travel. And that's, I think, how it's playing out from airport to airlines to hotels and other parts of the industry, that it's permeating that way.
Yeah. And what are you seeing as far as tech that you're seeing in other countries that, because maybe they can move quicker than the United States can as far as getting things implemented, especially at the airport? What are those technologies that are coming?
Well, look, like for instance, QR codes that, was a joke in US for the last 10 years are suddenly come back in vogue, not in travel, but I'm sure there's QR codes at restaurants. You can, if you want takeout or if you want, QR codes have made a comeback because of contactless. And you would potentially see that coming into other parts of travel as we go. It'd be interesting to see what happens to F&B in hotels. We've been doing stories about ghost kitchens, and I don't know if you've ever talked about ghost kitchens in your show, but ghost kitchens are these, or some people call them cloud kitchens, which is really kitchens for hire, and hotels that already have these kitchens that were not very used are now renting it out to different people to create restaurants that they'd deliver through Seamless and others, or even create a virtual restaurant in your hotel that people can order from. So that's another example of an innovation that's happening, where hotels are being able to turn over the inventory that hadn't been used as much prior to the pandemic as well. So those are some of the things that we're seeing that are, I would say, still early. The one thing that is very interesting to us is what happens to the all the changes that are happening in future work. The fact that you and I can work from anywhere, can do what you are doing from anywhere, really, that we wouldn't have dreamed of 10 years ago. Certainly has been accelerated in the last year. What does co-working have a real future in the hotel space? Would you and I have a membership of, let's say, Citizen M Hotel, which is a small chain, has launched this, which is you pay for your, us as a small company can buy a membership to Citizen M Hotel, and our employees can stay X number of days or indefinite, and can use Citizen M as a co-working space and pay, $1,500 a year for unlimited stays or X number of stays, unlimited use of the co-working space. Accor is another hotel chain that has leaned heavily into it as well. So it'd be interesting to see the WeWork type revolution that's happened separate from the hotel industry. Will this pandemic make it converge? I think that's another trend that we're watching.
Yeah, I was just thinking while you're talking about ghost kitchens, and we've talked about this. So any of you guys watching on LinkedIn or YouTube, you can join Rafat or myself. We talk about hospitality on Clubhouse, which is a live conversation where you can drop in and ask a question live. If you don't have the app, definitely send me a DM and I'll get you on into Clubhouse. But this is a topic that I was just thinking about, like, as we're talking about ghost kitchens for hotels and thinking of innovation, like your hotel might be closed for breakfast because now you might be having those grab and goes for a lot of the select service or the mid-scale properties where, hey, you pick up this bag. This is what we did the last few weeks. We just picked up a bag or picked up a few things and went to our room. Well, what if people love hotel waffles, right? They love the waffles at the hotel that they can make themselves. What happens if you can, out of your kitchen, use an Uber, a Seamless, or whatever, and go deliver that waffle with a bunch of sides as your ghost kitchen for your hotel? But it's really your hotel's breakfast. Now you're being creative, and maybe that's an opportunity. I was just thinking out loud as far as you have to think differently when you're thinking about operating your hotels, or even considering what you're doing in travel, when you're including tech, when you're trying to include the F&B part, when you're trying to include the experience part, which we talked about the chatbots. Now,
we haven't even talked about the meeting spaces. I mean, your world, hospitality world, is meeting spaces in hotels is a huge money spinner. What do they get retooled as in a hybrid world? The conferences will come back. The physical events will come back. It just will always have a digital component to it. Are the hotels equipped beyond just providing the Wi-Fi or the AV system? How does running two simultaneous conferences, as in a physical conference and an online conference, seamlessly work? Do they have StreamYard integrated? StreamYard is the one that we're using to stream this. Yeah. Are they working with a company like StreamYard, which is now owned by Hopin, which is a giant, which has emerged as a giant player in the last year? Hotels are tying up with companies like Hopin to have these hybrid solutions for the industry. So again, a fascinating new sector that we couldn't have even imagined a year ago.
Yeah, and a lot of people are asking me, is business travel coming back? And what about events and meetings? And you do the research. When is that coming back? And when can those hotels that are in downtown locations or convention space locations, when is that business coming back?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know the answer because that's a big money riding on that. I do think that, Bill Gates' number gets thrown around, which is 50% of the business travel will go over. Obviously, that's not going to happen. That seems to be completely overblown. I also think that some of the pessimism of business travel that even we as a company Skift had, is probably overblown, in the sense that I do think we've talked to travel managers, 10 to 15% seems like a number of like permanently this amount of business travel will be gone forever. Obviously, the CFOs in large companies have seen the savings in their bottom line. And so that's the biggest driver of not having business travel. I do think it'll come back in different ways. I think meetings become even more important going ahead, or at least certain types of meetings, particularly bringing your teams. Group gatherings, when it's more safe to do, would certainly have a higher meaning, certainly to me and you and other people, and then anybody who's working. And so certainly that's the case. Airline CEOs have said in the last earnings calls that they're looking at like 2024 as the year, 24 and 25 as the year where the numbers in terms of passengers and revenue potentially is back on track to the pre-COVID numbers. So but it's really anybody's guess. I think with where you and I are sitting today, it looks like it's recovering a lot faster. And so, but it's uneven. Different parts of the world is very different. We did a story yesterday on New Zealand. Their business travel is now back at 90%. Their domestic business travel is 90% compared to pre-COVID. Obviously, New Zealand's a small country. You can only do so much, and they're generally been very strict about it. So where else do they got to go? Again, it'll be very uneven, but I think US will be in a good shape.
Yeah. And, we could probably talk about hours and hours about, like, I have a list of 50 things that we could talk about. And we talked about innovation. We talked about some things that you could disrupt business. We talked about a lot of different things. Now, we talked about even your prediction. Now, where is the behavior going as far as, where do you see people, we talked about they want to do the outdoors travel, but where do you see it long term? In 5 years, what's going to happen to the industry as far as travel? Is it
there's a lot of
prior?
There's a lot, we coined the term over tourism back at Skift in 2016. That became a term, we didn't coin the concept. The concept was already there. We coined a term for it that people latched onto. Hopefully over tourism is not a thing going ahead, which is the cities that are overwhelmed with tourists and the locals resent them. Hawaii is a prime example of that, where they ignored the rise of tourism for years, and then suddenly, obviously, now they're talking about how do we have more of a balance going ahead post pandemic. So certainly that's what we see, which is cities being more aware of involving locals when they talk about tourism and how to bring back travel, and that I think is only a good thing. The balance between how do you regulate things like short-term rentals, etc., such that they coexist in the ecosystem of cities and localities where they are. So those are some of the things. From a tech perspective, I was reading a story this morning on Bloomberg about supersonic travel as a potential possibility coming back. The Concorde that used to be there. There's at least 2 or 3 companies that are working on new generation aircrafts that will cut, for instance, the time of flight between New York and London to 4 hours. That may be 10 years, 15 years from now. But again, that's an incredible thing if it comes back, in terms of imagine what that would do to, the just all types of efficiencies and how much time we save. So those are some of the things that we look forward to. And I think traveler behavior coming out of the pandemic has certainly seen, human behavior coming out of the pandemic has certainly seen that there is an inherent need for travel. And that won't go away. I think there was a sentiment that people will realize that they can do without travel, or at least a good portion. And turns out that isn't the case. In fact, if anything else, it's the length of this lockdown has shown the opposite.
Yeah, I feel like people want to travel even more now because they've been restricted. And guys, comment and let me know if you're going to be traveling this year and where you think you would love to go. What's your dream vacation? What's your dream trip? I would love to hear that in the comments. And this has been a great conversation. I know we could talk hours and hours of just what you guys do in Skift. And my last question that everybody in the hotel space has is labor. Finding good people to fill these positions, as we scared a lot of people away from the industry a year,
which is unfortunate, right?
Which is very unfortunate. Now we're trying to get them back as our hotels all of a sudden turn to 100% or really high occupancies. We can't find the people. What could people do as far as within what you guys research, where they can think outside of, and I hate to say the box, but the box on labor and really trying to fill those positions that are going to be coming up? Like, I see hotels this summer, they're going to be very busy. Like, how do you start filling those positions now? And what do you say to those people that were on the fence of coming back to the industry and are considering that?
Yeah. Well, I think, look, I don't have tons of original thoughts on this, but there are a few good things that are happening. One is there's the minimum wage movement in the U.S., the livable wage movement in the U.S., which is certainly there now. $15 is the base at which it starts. That will certainly help the mass of hotel employees or hospitality employees. The wages have to rise. You have to retrain the employees. Hotels and companies will have to put in the money to do all of this. The traveler numbers will generate the excitement. I do think you will see not only a flood of travelers, but also a flood of stories about people traveling, meaning in general media and social media, etc. People will be bragging about travel as an exciting sector that is coming back. The comeback story will need to excite people to come back into the hospitality sector. Certainly that's the case as well. I'm sure the travel industry and hotel industry are planning campaigns to advertise this fact that the travel industry is coming back. Come join this exciting industry that has been reinvented in X number of ways, and I think certainly that's the case as well. So, beyond that, I don't have tons of original insights.
Yeah, I think it's our job as leaders and owners, operators, and managers, or anything that you're in the space as far as hospitality and travel. Like, it's our job to let people know it's time to travel again, right? As soon as you feel comfortable, and if, like Sarah was saying, the vaccinations are happening
Yeah,
right
I
now,
hate
we're
that word.
gonna.
I just hope that word doesn't take off. I'm fine. Just like vaccination sounds like a form of waxing. Um, but please, other than that, yes, I still think that there's the CDC, which is still recommending not to travel, is being a little impractical in there, which is that there is going to be enough travel. I would rather have guidelines on how to travel safely than this blanket thing about not traveling, because it's not going to happen. Nobody's going to follow it at this point. Nobody is following it. Good portion of people are not following it. So I would rather have safe travel guidelines than blanket ban. And I think that's where CDC is a little behind.
Yeah, definitely. And, with my dad passing away from COVID in October last year, I understand the importance of everybody staying safe. But yes, I do agree that, as leaders, we say, hey, when you're ready, let's travel again. But I think that opportunity to market our industry right now and as we continue growing is going to be very important. Mr. Rafat Ali, this has been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm sure we're going to have you on again to talk about what's happening in the future as far as new trends. And we've talked about amazing things. So I really appreciate, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm easy. It's at Rafat on Twitter, but I would rather people follow Skift. And thank you for putting Skift.com. If you go to Skift.com/newsletters, you can subscribe to the daily free newsletter, or on Twitter, it's at Skift. So please follow Skift and all the work that our team does, which I know many of you are listening. Many of our team are listening right now as well. So they do an amazing job.
Absolutely. I've been following you guys, and I love reading your stories every single day. So guys, if you're not subscribed to their newsletter, definitely subscribe and follow him on LinkedIn. They provide so much good content. And if you're a hotel owner, operator, you're thinking about traveling, this is what they do. This is what they love to do. And so thank you so much for coming onto the show, and hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll meet in a physical environment at some point.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, and talk to you soon. And hey, by the way, guys, if you're on Clubhouse right after this, we're going to join this conversation and continue this conversation with Mr. Ali in about 1 minute. So I'll see you guys on Clubhouse in 1 minute. Hang on. All right, guys. Thank you so much, guys. If you want, every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, I do a live show, and then after we go live on on Clubhouse. So join me on Clubhouse right now. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/Rupesh Live, you'll be able to see the my page there. So we're on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, YouTube, and now Spotify. You can find the past 83 episodes with leaders and great marketing ideas, make great sales, trade, like a bunch of different things on Spotify. So go to Spotify and search for Hospitality Live with me, Rupesh. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. Please like and subscribe. Somebody hit the like button right now if you enjoyed this conversation, and definitely connect with Sarah and Mr. Rafat Ali. And I will see you guys next week, live, probably from my studio at my house. I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys. Take care of each other. Take care of yourself. I'll talk to you soon.